Those of you that missed class on Monday, we talked about the different political cartoons and evaluating them, looking at the ideas of popular sovereignty, limited government, judicial review, separation of powers between the branches of government and between the branches of the federal and state governments, as well as the branches within the national government, executive, legislative, judicial, and the checks and balances they have on one another. The idea that government can only be limited in its scope and limited in what it can do and its powers, and then the idea that federalism is the separation between the different levels of government: state, local, national. Popular sovereignty power comes from the people. So which of these, how do these cartoons break down? Listed. We're going to do a couple. I did a couple in class. So listing the objects or people you see in the visuals. So again, you have federal authority, federal benefits. So in two words, yes and no. This is the object or people you see in the visual. You see one person represents the state government, states' rights, um, and then one person represents the federal authority. Uncle Sam there represents federal authority. Any words or numbers? In two words, yes and no, right? Those would be the numbers. Any objects that occur to them meant to symbolize something. What does each symbol mean? So the state and federal powers are symbolized here, right? The state, this is the federal powers, the state's rights powers. You see that little state's rights symbol there, that's on his jacket. And the picture is supposed to represent the state wanting the federal benefits. They want the federal benefits, but not the federal authority. They want the federal benefits, but not the federal authority. So the federal government, the message is the federal government is making the state follow their laws if they want to receive benefits. I'm going to cut myself out of the picture here. The federal government is making the state follow their laws if they want to receive benefits, right? We often see this in grants, and even in like the COVID-19 aid packages. You can only use money for certain things. Money for PPE, money for um, money for schools. There's certain money that the federal government is earmarked for certain projects or programs. It's not just for whatever the state decides. The state wants to make their own laws while still getting benefits, kind of a blank check, if you will. But the federal government, that's how they've expanded their power so much and exponentially over the years, is that they've offered that authority. They've held out that authority in exchange for benefits, or usually in the way of money. So, of course, the principle that this represents is federalism, right? The idea that each individual government, state, local, national, has their own sphere of power, and sometimes those intersect. Okay, next, looking at cartoon number 2, these little pigs, and how do we know what they want? So if you look carefully at this, and I'll zoom in a little bit more. If you look carefully at this, you see that they're crunching the people that need a job, that didn't want bailouts. This is after the 2008 financial crisis, where there was heavy unemployment. So the objects or people you see here are what? Pigs, two pigs sitting on top of a big pile of money. Under the bags of money are citizens with signs talking about jobs. And then, of course, the words and numbers. These little people don't have a list of demands. Okay, clearly ignoring them. How can we know what they want? Well, they're clearly ignoring them, right? So any objects or cartoon meant to symbolize the money laying on top of the people symbolizes the debt that we owe their countries. And the pig sitting on top of that money symbolizes the government is lazy, not trying to help pay it off, right? Not trying to help pay it off. The money is, again, symbolizes the debt. Our national debt is extensive. And the pigs sitting on top of the money symbolize the government is lazy and not trying to help pay it off. Based on the words, numbers, and phrases, so explain the message of the cartoon. The message of the cartoon is the government or leaders of the government do not focus on problems that civilians are facing and looking at their own problems. Okay, the pigs have all the money and are completely ignore the fact that the citizens are demanding jobs, but their actions are not heard. Okay, so the citizens have, the pigs have all the money, in order to fact the citizens are demanding jobs, but their voices are not heard. So the leaders of the government do not focus on the problems civilians are facing, and instead they are only looking at their own problems. The government and leaders do not focus on the problems that civilians are facing, but look at their own problems. Again, this is the idea of popular sovereignty. People give the government power, and if they're going to abuse it, and they're going to ignore the fact that citizens are demanding jobs and their voice isn't heard, it's going to be a problem. Okay, it's going to be a problem. So that's what I did in class on Monday. Went through a couple of those. The 6 principles in a video on Friday, I went through quite a few of the 6 principles that you use to color and match up based on the examples based on the various principles of government and which one best matches and color it, whichever one it best matches. And I went through that in a video on 9 under week of 9/14 on 9/18 when I was able to record class. So this is not due till Wednesday, but we'll move on from there. So that basically summarizes the gist of what happened on Monday 9/21.